This, as always, a confident show. How confident are we in the Madden ratings of quarterbacks? I think this will be an interesting discussion. We were just talking about how, look, this video game era, Madden has become something that I don't think anybody could have ever believed. I don't think anybody could have ever contemplated that John Madden, for instance, would become more famous as the namesake of a video game than he would as a Super Bowl winning head coach or as an announcer. But there are generations now almost of players in video games, and the vast majority of them know John Madden not as one of the legendary coaches of the NFL, but as the guy from the video game. And certainly that's the case for pretty much everybody who's playing now, with the exception of the oldest quarterbacks who would remember John Madden as really kind of an iconic voice. I'm trying to think. Brady, obviously, and Phillip Rivers, I would think, and maybe also Drew Brees, John Madden would have done their games at some point in time. But outside of those, maybe Ben Roethlisberger, there's not even very many quarterbacks left in the league that John Madden would have called games for, which is pretty wild to think about because he's been out of the league for several years now. How long has Madden been out of the league, J. Mart? Like a decade?
It's been pretty good. Didn't he? I was going to say, for some reason, I thought I remembered him doing the first season of Sunday Night Football, but it may have been Collinsworth from the start. But it's been over a decade since he's been anything on television that we have seen, really.
Yeah, and he still makes an occasional appearance and whatnot, and obviously he's an iconic voice.
08
so,
when
yeah.
he was done. So, yeah, he did work with NBC, so I was right. He did do the first. It was him and Al Michaels right off the start, and then Collinsworth came in a couple years in, and then John Madden sort of receded back and decided he was going to spend time with his family and write some books.
So this will be like the 10th or 11th season, roughly, that we have had in the NFL without John Madden being affiliated, which squares roughly with my analysis of how many guys that he's actually called. So this is kind of crazy. I know sometimes they may make decisions that are designed to provoke attention in terms of who they decide are the best quarterbacks. But Patrick Mahomes, according to Madden, is the best quarterback in the NFL. Young guy, has only played 1 year as a starter. That is a bold, bold prediction to already give him the title of best quarterback in the NFL. I think he's also on the cover. There may be a connection there, potentially. Am I right that Mahomes is on the cover of the new Madden?
Yes.
So maybe that is the connection. Do you believe that Patrick Mahomes gets the number one rating on Madden, the best quarterback in the NFL rating, if he is not on the cover of the video game?
Yes, because
you still think?
Yeah, because it's all built on measurables. And then there are a couple of things like awareness and things, but generally it's on throwing ability and creativity and agility and all of these things, where I would assume near the top of the list would be Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. I don't have the list in front of me, but those would be the two guys when I'm thinking about Madden. Those guys leap off the page because what is it we saw back in Madden 04 when Michael Vick was on the cover? Fastest guy I've ever seen in a football video game, and people just sort of spammed with him, and that's how they won their Madden championships back in the day, was playing with Vick. Mahomes is basically a video game character in real life. When you watch the way he plays, some of the stuff he does, you shouldn't be able to do unless you're holding a controller. So I absolutely do agree that, especially in the Madden universe, he would be tops.
All right, he's at 97. Like, it's funny, my kids are so obsessed with Madden that they will rate everything as if it's Madden. I mean, this is what they do. They're like, what'd you think about that new Spider-Man movie? Oh, I'd give it a 94. You know, like they go through all of life, like rating things as if it's Madden. I mean, that's how much attention they pay, and they're 11-8. But that's how much the Madden ratings kind of factor into their universe. So Patrick Mahomes, you agree with the decision. My only disagreement with it is just 1 year of production in the NFL. It's hard for me to say this guy is the best at anything off of 1 year, even though it was obviously an extraordinary year, even though he won the MVP, even though I think all of that is certainly justified on 1 year. It's still just 1 year. And I've just seen so many quarterbacks in their sophomore slump. And remember, Mahomes set out his entire first year. Year two comes out and becomes a superstar, the likes of which we haven't ever really seen. The kind of performance in what is effectively his rookie year in terms of actual on-the-field production. So Mahomes is the one. My only quibble with this would be, again, it's a 1 year thing. He's a 1 year wonder. The guy right after him, I think might actually be a little bit overrated relative to his performance right now. Tom Brady, 96. Now, I know Brady has won 6 Super Bowls, but he's 41 years old. I thought he showed a decent amount of chinks in the armor, so to speak, in his most recent season. I'm not sure how many great years he has left. It's hard to criticize a guy coming off of a Super Bowl, but I don't consider right now, in my opinion, Tom Brady to be the second best quarterback in the NFL. You with me?
Yeah, no, I don't either. If you're looking across the board, I'm thinking about it from the Madden perspective, and I would suggest that I look at the ratings as this is what you're playing against. Because when you're in control of them, you're going to do good and you're going to do bad based on your skill level with the game. But if you're playing against the computer, the AI control version, what does that tell you about Tom Brady? It tells you he's probably not going to throw interceptions unless you make great plays. He's not going to make mistakes. He's going to bury you with those short passes and things like that. And it's going to be hard to beat the New England Patriots. And when you look at it through that lens, I think it makes a little bit more sense. Although at this stage, 96 is awfully high.
Here's another one I think that is awfully high. Phillip Rivers is the third best quarterback in the NFL, according to Madden. Now, I know he had a run in the most recent year. They won a playoff game on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. They have performed at times at a very high level with him. He's had a star-crossed NFL career, never been able to get to a Super Bowl. But I don't think there's any way at all that I would put Phillip Rivers as the third best quarterback in the NFL right now.
That, I think, is maybe a function of, yes, he may have had maybe his best year.
Statistically.
Yeah, in his career, and he was an MVP candidate. He wasn't going to win it, but he was an MVP candidate. So if you're looking at a bunch of guys that are very good, you could maybe make that argument. But no, I would not have Phillip Rivers as the third best quarterback in the NFL. Probably not top 5 at this point.
All right, then we've got Andrew Luck at 92. And I need to look this up because I don't have Drew Brees on my list, and I question, like I pulled this off of a popular website to look at this. I need to look at what Drew Brees' number is because Drew Brees put up some pretty incredible numbers, and I'm pulling up right now to see what Drew Brees is, what his overall is. Because I find it hard to believe that Drew Brees, okay, 92 overall. So, yeah, they are putting, effectively right now when you look at this list, Drew Brees, 92 overall. He needs to be in this mix, but he's beneath, again, I don't think he should be beneath Phillip Rivers at all. But Drew Brees didn't finish the season necessarily very well, was a top MVP candidate, and he's tied right now for 4th best in the NFL with Andrew Luck. What do you think about that? Andrew Luck and Drew Brees, that rounds out the top 5. And if you're just getting in your car, this is an objective list, an objective rating of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The top 5, according to Madden, in this order: Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Andrew Luck, and Drew Brees tied at 92.
I'm okay with that. I would probably have Rodgers instead of Brees. I might not have Brees in the top 5. I didn't think his season was all that great last year, and I feel like there's a lot more talent around him in New Orleans than there was, for example, around Andrew Luck. I don't have too much of a qualm with it. Brees has won a Super Bowl before, and he's no doubt a great player, no doubt a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Luck is interesting just because there are a few guys that you can look at. Another rating is injury risk on Madden, and certainly Luck's going to be on there. Aaron Rodgers, because he's dealt with that, is probably going to be on there as well. But Luck, based on what we saw last year and based on his overall talent and what we know he's capable of, if they continue to build around him properly, yeah, absolutely, I could see him in the top 5. Right now, I'd say he is a top 5 player when he's healthy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you want a flyer on Super Bowl champ, I like the Colts. And I also think if you want a flyer on league MVP, I think Andrew Luck's around 12-1. Most recently that I saw, I think in year 2 with Frank Reich, he can be off the charts. Because a lot of times you see that leap in terms of offensive connectivity and just efficiency in year 2 in a system. And I think given the fact that we know Andrew Luck is very smart and is Peyton Manning-like in his diligence and preparation, I think year 2 in this system, particularly as he comes off that injury, I think he could be really kind of off the charts. So we'll see with him. Outside the top 5, Russell Wilson, I mean, Russell Wilson had his best year as a pro. I think it's hard to quibble with him in the top 10. But I do think this is why a lot of people paid attention to this. Aaron Rodgers is all the way down at the 7th best quarterback in the NFL, according to Madden. I mean, that voice, that sound, like you were legitimately peeved over this.
It's just more that, I mean, it's been a while since he's won anything that really matters. I did not think he played particularly well last year. I don't think it was all. I mean, that was not a hunky-dory situation in Green Bay. We've read the articles and we've seen it, and we see there's a new head coach there and all this. But Rodgers sometimes skated the blame at times in his career. This past season, I felt like he was average when he was out there, at least on his own scale. But putting him at 7th, like, I can't put Phillip Rivers above Aaron Rodgers. Like, I don't feel good about doing that. I don't think there's a universe in which Aaron Rodgers, when you're looking at objective numbers and what he's capable of doing with the football, is not a top 5 quarterback.
I agree with that. And by the way, after the top 7, I think it starts to get really kind of intriguing. You got Matt Ryan, who statistically puts up big numbers. And I feel like, maybe I'm wrong in this, but I feel like Matt Ryan is going to turn into one of the poster boys for his legacy would be a billion times different if they don't blow that 28-3 lead.
No doubt.
Right now, if Matt Ryan has won that Super Bowl and had an MVP season and has put up the numbers that he has, he would be a slam dunk, no doubt Hall of Famer. I still think he's probably going to end up making the Hall of Fame just because the numbers that he's going to post are going to be off the charts. But if he had won that Super Bowl, he'd be a no-brainer. And I'm not sure that he's going to get it done now if you just look at the trajectory of the Atlanta Falcons.
Right. I think this year is big for Matt Ryan. It's big for that team because they do have a lot of firepower. Some people are starting to turn around on them and thinking, yeah, this could be another Super Bowl potential year for the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan is just that consummate. He's going to be good, and you're going to look at him and say, ooh, we're playing against Matt Ryan. But that one game, it's hard to say this because I have no idea what's going to happen, but I don't think they're ever going to play in a Super Bowl again. I think that was the one opportunity, and when you're up and you can't finish that job, that's going to be the thing. When he passes away, I know this is morbid, but this is the way that I classify.
When he passes away, when he retires. Let's say retires.
Well, no, I'm looking at it from this perspective. In his obituary, when you're talking about what he's done in sports, that loss is going to be before anything else you talk about that happened, and it's not really his fault. There were a lot of other things that went wrong. Matt Ryan didn't play badly in that game, but I look at the newspaper clipping about his life, and especially if it's written by a sports writer in Atlanta, and what you're going to talk about after you talk about his family and all those things, you're going to talk about the loss in the Super Bowl as opposed to all the yards he threw for.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I also think that there's another side of that same coin right now going on in the NFL, and it's a guy not very far different from Matt Ryan. You got Ben Roethlisberger, who obviously has won a couple of Super Bowls. He's the next best quarterback, according to Madden. And then you got Cam Newton. And I feel like Cam is in the exact same spot as Matt Ryan, where I really don't feel like the Carolina Panthers are going to get back to a Super Bowl, right? I just with Cam Newton as their quarterback. And Cam's coming off the injury. We'll see how he does this year. But if Cam Newton and the Panthers had won that game, much like if Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons, both NFC South teams, had won their games, everything is different about their career. The way we talk about them, the way we think about them, because effectively you become a made man when you win a Super Bowl. And I think both those guys had good chances, and both of them came up short, and I'm not sure they're going to get another opportunity.
I think you're probably right. I actually think, weirdly enough, even though that Carolina team was so dominant that year, because they came up so woefully short, it doesn't stick the way that the Falcons choking that Super Bowl away and losing it to the New England Patriots does. That story is something we still talk about. It's something that's still joked about amongst anybody but Atlanta fans. I think many people have forgotten Carolina was even in that Super Bowl that Denver won. And I think that might actually be better for Cam, that it's almost just fallen by the wayside into NFL obscurity as opposed to this historic comeback that we saw the Patriots make against the Falcons.
No, that is intriguing to think about. Well, and then we get into some guys that I think we don't really know, right? Like I would say the verdict on effectively the top 10. You can argue about who should be in the top 10. You can argue, hey, is Ben Roethlisberger still a top 10 quarterback given his injuries and how long he's been in the league? You can argue, is Cam a top 10 quarterback? But then you go with Jared Goff. A little bit wacky, I think, that Jared Goff's up that high. The numbers might reflect it. I'm not sure that I buy in.
It's a Sean McVay effect right there.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's a fair question. Baker Mayfield.
Boy, that's
right?
fast.
I mean, that is, we talked about, well, that Mahomes went from not even ranked, basically, to the best quarterback in the NFL. Baker right now, 12th best quarterback in the NFL. He's above Deshaun Watson, and he's above Carson Wentz, which I think is a little bit crazy.
Yeah,
right?
I would have Wentz for sure, and I might, depending on the problem with Watson is what they're surrounding him with and the discombobulation surrounding that organization.
And
but
also,
Wentz is a top 10 quarterback to me.
Yeah, can Watson stay healthy? But
right.
Yes, Wentz, and I guess maybe that's the question too with Wentz is can he stay healthy? Then you got Dak, which I think is I think Dak's a little bit overrated there. Mm-hmm. You've got Cousins, Kirk Cousins at same rating as Dak. And then this is the group that to me is the most intriguing on the entire list. All right, so those are the guys that are like I would put Dak in this group, right, where they really haven't proven themselves necessarily. Maybe you could also put Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield in this group, but these are the guys that I think would you buy sell on them.